We're recording. So I will call to order a meeting of the Marine Resources Task Force. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, you're saying that a lot if it all comes out like one long word. Okay, so we don't have anything to review, I think, any minutes? I don't see anything on here. No. Okay, public comment? Okay, let's then dive right into our agenda. Okay, we'll just dive right in. Fertilizer ordinance. Anything new?
No, I have not heard anything new. I don't even know if Chad, could I ask you a question about, do you know about our fertilizer ordinance status, if they have started working on it, writing it? Are you going to be doing that? Did anybody tell you?
I'm not sure. I will check into it and give you an answer.
Well, you know, then I'll, Chad, since everybody's here, why don't you tell everybody about yourself and.
Sure. So, Chad Schutz. I have experience environmental resource permitting with the Department of Environmental Protection. Master's degree from James Cook University in Australia. Been in Florida for 10 years, 10 years in Australia before that. Originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Got a Bachelor's of Science from Emory in biology. And here at your disposal.
Where were you in Australia?
North Queensland, Great Barrier Reef.
Oh, okay.
Where were you in Baton Rouge?
Where in Baton Rouge? Off Jefferson Highway.
Okay, I lived there for 16 years.
Yep. Went to Our Lady of Mercy.
Yeah. Oh, you did? For
elementary
school? Oh, okay, good.
And Catholic High for.
Oh, yeah, my
high
husband
school.
went to Catholic High.
Yep.
And
go
he
Bears.
graduated from LSU, yeah.
Yep.
Small world. And Bill spent a lot of time in Australia.
Yeah, well, I met my wife in Australia. Yeah, going to Great Keppel Island
Yep.
years and years and years ago.
Well, welcome.
But this is
Thank you.
Steve, Mary Rose, they're both very active with Turtle Time. And Shannon's vice chair. She's the driver of our agenda and our scientific mind.
I just talk a lot.
Okay, so fertilizer ordinance, not to talk about reusable bags. Steve.
Well, Bill, you and I went out and had a meeting.
We figured out we didn't know enough to do what we wanted to do, didn't we?
Right, I put the new
Oh, I'm going to see.
perimeters on the new margins on there.
Oh, they're going the other way.
Well,
they're
we found
smaller.
out we couldn't print as big as that,
Oh, okay.
and so we didn't really have anything to go in.
Although it is a quarter. Those are essentially 3 by 3, so 12 by 9 are 3-inch images, assuming we're going to stick with the same bag, if it's still
Oh.
available, same vendor.
So we're going to go over the town of Fort Myers Beach part, and
Right.
we're going to keep our stats on the back.
Right.
Keep it plastic
Oh,
free.
yeah, I don't know
Okay.
if that's something you got to vote on, it's hard to.
No, that's
I think that's been the plan
Yeah.
all along, so I
That's
mean,
good.
we can, but I don't really think it's necessary.
Yeah.
And so now we should probably decide, maybe have a vote on what kind of quantity we're going to go for. Because I think I figured out with 16 that if you do 695, you can make 2,500 bags. And I did talk to the vendor, and he's saying it's the same price as last time.
Let's go over those numbers again then.
Okay, we made 2,200 bags last time.
22.
Yeah.
So more expensive than we thought it was
Comes
going to
out
be.
to $4.42 a bag, and that just sticks with me.
Well, you know, I mean, if we could go back to, well, even now, I don't think we could recreate those old prices because this is, you know, the Chinese prices we had were pre-tariff.
Right.
And we can't do that anyway unless we completely restructure it. I know that it's not as many bags as we'd hoped, but it's certainly the path of least resistance.
We can't use China because they don't do the, what do you call it, purchase order thing? Is that why we couldn't use it?
And the town can't do it. The
Yeah,
town
so
has
we
to have a
use-
purchase order to a domestic entity.
Okay.
I actually did a little bit of research. Unfortunately, it was last night, and their pricing tool was down. They had a matrix there, but this is the from Trophy Case in Fort Myers is the name of the business. They've got looks like it's a little utility off their website. Actually, I know the guy who runs it, and he said, "Well, just go to the utility, and it'll do everything for you." Well, this morning I was trying to chase him. I couldn't get him all morning, so I couldn't really try to get a sense of what a good estimate of landed cost would be. But they have in that little utility 7,245 bags. Just to give you an idea of just the breadth of, and it says there's a disclaimer, they're not possibly all available, but there's a lot of them, a lot of different sizes, and anywhere from around $3, I guess, is what I'm looking at. So I don't know if it costs $1 a piece to print. If it does, then it's almost a wash. But it was also only for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. The matrix they had were for those types of numbers, which I guess we would be in, but we potentially could go higher if the costs go lower. So as a reminder, though, did we have 12 ounce? Are these 12 ounce? Is that what we were targeting?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's 12 ounce.
Yeah.
I can probably
They
look back
can't
at my
be any
notes.
more than that, because I use these, actually, when I do get my groceries, I'm one of those nerds that brings their bags. And those ones we got, the first ones, are too heavy, and it beeps every time, and they have to come reset it. So I don't want to go any higher than that, because then the stupid thing won't.
What,
What
the
are you talking,
anti-
what are you talking
You
about?
go to
Anti-theft
Walmart
thing?
and you hit, I brought my own bag.
Yeah.
And then you put the bag on, and if it weighs more than that, it won't, it says something about
Oh, take the product off the,
something detected, and you have to remove everything from where the bags are.
Oh.
So they shouldn't be heavier than that.
Okay.
Because
I mean,
I don't
yeah.
use the big ones anymore, because it's a pain.
I mean, if you go find a new vendor, it means we're talking about different squares. We're talking about, unless they have exactly the same bag.
Right. Or I mean, it's all based on size, I would say, correct?
Yeah, but sometimes they have a panel on the side, sometimes they're stitching.
Right, they're
There's more
gusseted. I mean, these are
stitching, yeah.
gusseted. I was looking at stuff that was gusseted. Some are even larger than these.
There's a lot of
But they're
variables.
10 ounce. I mean,
Even
there
the
are.
length of the handles, they'll get you on that too.
All right.
Everything
So-
counts.
So you have to get 3 quotes? Is that what you're doing right now is,
No, I'm not. I'm just looking to overcome the price point.
Okay.
I think is basically get more bags out. I mean, the more bags, the better, I think is the idea. But
And I think that's admirable, but I really don't want to hold up the process to,
Right.
too much to go through and revisit the whole
this is
supplier
definitely
thing.
the path of least resistance, let's face it. So are we, is that something we can move forward with? Because I was hesitant to actually put together the flyer we talked about, Bill, because one of the things I want to do is get some flyers in the hands of all the MRF members to help just pass them out, where it's just a one-page, are you in or are you not? And you can hand them out to your,
So what would the numbers be? 16 spots, and each spot is,
there's 12 spots, huh?
16 spots.
Oh, that's,
Oh, no.
you only drew,
That's
Well,
12.
No, there's 4. There's
12.
1, 2,
there's only
No,
12.
three.
There's only 12 spots. So is that what it's going to be, 12?
No, it wasn't supposed to be.
And they're,
I think we just
1,
need,
2,
we need another
3,
row.
4. No, it's 4 by 3.
That's 12.
That's 12.
12. Ah, right.
Well, there you have 4.
Must have been really late last night, huh, Steve?
Yeah.
It'd be 2 by,
So they'd have to be small. I mean, they'd be smaller because those look actually reasonable.
Oh, so you're basing it on 16.
16, right? So
Okay.
I'm gonna have to use another bag.
We can swap.
$4.
Here,
No, I'll wash one or something. It's not important.
I
but-
use the one with the drawing on it.
so, and assuming, because we're right, if we, with the pricing that we had before, and I did talk to him, the pricing is good if we go up a little bit. There's no price break until you're like 5,000 bags or something. So I went through all the math, it's $442 each. If we want to make 2,500 bags, total would be 11,000, and then it'd be $690 for each of the 16 spots.
Right.
That's the cost. So we say $695, that maybe covers a little something extra. It's $690 and 70 cents or something.
Right. We'll round it up. So the question is, do you think, I mean, I want to include everybody here on the size, if it's even a little bit smaller than that. I think the idea is that we're replacing single-use bags more than it is a real marketing tool for the sponsor.
Size of the bag or size of the square?
The size of the square, I mean, the size of
Oh.
their ad.
Yeah, I think they'll fit in whatever space you give them.
Yeah. And don't they give it to you on a flashboard and then they can just shrink it?
Sure,
or-
yeah, I'm sure they'd make a single image and then he'd screen them all.
Probably depends on how big the company is. Some would just give you a logo and then you just, but others would probably come up with using the space exactly. They have the resources.
Right, that's phase two, after we get the pledges and we start collecting the cash and the images.
And didn't we talk about, okay, the position of the bag is like first come, first served? Is that first committed or first check?
Correct, first, I would say first committed.
I think that's an easier sell, to have them be
Yeah, I
able to
mean, we
say,
can,
that's my
we can
square.
ask for I don't know how hard a commitment you want. I mean, we're not, obviously, we can't collect the money until we have all the sponsors.
Right.
We'll have them sign something. Here, sign your pledge form.
Yeah, and so do you have a pledge form?
Not yet.
Okay.
But it'll actually be on that.
On the
single
handout?
sheet. Yeah, that's what I assumed that we would put at the very bottom.
Okay. Okay.
Sounds good.
So there's 16 slots at $700 each, is that,
Well,
Right,
$690.
$695,
okay.
$99. And
And-
that'll we can produce 2,500, and the only other question is what the distribution is for the advertisers versus the bags that we'll keep for events.
And I think we talked at one of the previous meetings that we were going to, basically half of the bags will go to sponsors if they want them. And the other half we'll distribute. Right? Because if it's somebody who doesn't have who's just doing it to honor somebody or whatever, they may want us to distribute it for them.
Get them 78 bags, roughly 75, let's say. We'll run
Right.
it to 75. That sound good?
So in other words, they're going to be looking at about $10 a bag. They're going to get 70 bags for $700.
Yeah.
All right.
$9.95.
Okay. We're going to let them pick their spot, and we'll mark off that X, that spot's taken.
Yeah, I think it's good to go
You go
through.
next, you can pick whatever spot. These are the ones that are left open.
Yeah, it's probably good to maybe
Let them know where
have-
it's going to
have-
be.
have one keeper of the squares.
Yeah,
So that if you're talking to somebody and they want to know, we have somebody, Steve, I presume, that knows which squares are available.
exactly.
And then they call you, you pick it up, and then you have a master. So, oh, I'm
So
sorry,
everybody
someone
knows
took that,
exactly.
right, yeah.
That's sort of what I did last time. I did
Yeah.
it.
You know what, well, maybe on the pledge form, we just give them a couple of choices.
Well, we can just
What's your
number the-
priority, and have a date on it, like you write down a date, like a timestamp, and say they prefer A1, but if that's not available, take A2.
Right, yeah, just number the squares.
That
right.
way it's documented.
Yeah, and there won't be any question when they come out, they won't say, I thought I was in the center, but you put me over on the bottom.
Right.
Well, I'm going to
Is it
also-
just writing? Can they put a logo in here? There's
Yeah,
just
any graphic.
anything.
any
It's
kind
just
of-
black and white.
And that's not a problem, the printer can,
I would assume so, yeah.
Do
The
16
question
different
is
ones?
what detail can they get? What's the resolution that'll print on that jute bag?
This town logo is the trickiest thing for the printer to do.
oh, really?
He had to do some manipulation with that to make it work.
Oh,
We're going to keep that still part of our design, right?
no, we're
Nope.
covering
No,
up
it's
that
not?
This whole
top
side
part.
is gone.
This whole side goes?
Yep.
Yeah, we're just
keeping
having
this?
beach stuff.
It says Town of Fort Myers Beach and Tom.
I know, I like this other side better, though. I think this has too much to read. I think it's too small. I know, but
On the grocery store line.
either way, let's get them done.
Sorry, Roger, would you like to
Just want to say hi and thank you for your service. And, I try to stop in and say hello and see if there's any specific questions. I don't want to break up your trend of thought or anything.
Yeah, what's the status on the fertilizer ordinance?
The status of the fertilizer ordinance is, from my understanding, is we're still waiting to hear from the state. I think you may know by now that on the glyphosate, that the state has said that even the revision we made to the ordinance is not acceptable, so it's back in your hands to see if you can fine tune it any further.
What does the state have to say about fertilizer?
It doesn't. You asked me about fertilizer, and I answered that, and then I just also tacked on the answer about glyphosate.
Right, I said, what about is the status on fertilizer ordinance, and you said we're waiting on the state.
We are waiting on the state.
For fertilizer?
I believe we are. I thought we were checking with them about some new language or whatever. Maybe I'm mistaken. I'll have to double check my notes.
Fertilizer is not glyphosate. That was the DEP clearance that I had to get.
And did you receive that?
Yeah,
In
and I
like- in
emailed it to
writing?
you.
In writing, right? So do we
I
have,
emailed you
but do we have to write a new?
yeah, we have to write a whole new ordinance. That's what, you said you were going to get it written.
I was going to get it written? Okay, well, I'll check my emails. And
I
see-
sent you and the whole town council and the attorney, from Celeste, I forgot her last name, from DEP.
Yeah,
and she said,
I
"You
get
can use this," and-
15,000 emails, so I apologize for not remember you're the one you're referring to, but I'll look at it tomorrow morning.
And let us know if you need anything, because I think, the idea was to, to use that approval with whatever you're sending to the state, so we know what we have to do.
Okay, I'll take a look at it, and I'll email you guys
So
tomorrow.
is Chad going to be writing that, or who's going to be writing that?
I could tell you that I'll have to look at your email and see if, what I'm going to do is probably just reach out to the Conservancy and see what they recommend for best practices and
It's all in the Seminole
probably
County.
yeah, and probably just use that
He
as a
said we
model.
can basically copy theirs, and he also gave us all the documentation we need to prove that we have a desire to maintain water quality in Estero Bay, and that is our documentation that the state lists that you have to have for making your fertilizer ordinance
That I
stricter.
remember. So, yeah, we'll get started on putting that into town format, and we'll circulate it through you guys.
I can resend you that email actually tonight. I'll send it right to
You
you.
wish. That'd be
And,
great.
yeah, hopefully it won't go to spam. I sent it to Joanne and I asked her about it, and she didn't get back to me yet, so.
There was a time a while ago when I think your servers were down, and I think things were not moving.
Yeah, well, we had someone who from a foreign country try to penetrate our system, so we kind of shut things out for outside emails for a little bit, so maybe I got caught up in that, but we'll find it. It's there if you sent it, and I appreciate your willingness to send it again.
I'm sure Russia has all kinds of resources just dedicated to penetrating Fort Myers Beach.
Wasn't that country, it was a different country.
Ah. Okay. Well, thank you, Roger.
All right,
Thank
have a
you.
great evening. Again, thank you for your service. Appreciate it. And Bob and Chad will be here to help you through the rest of your meeting.
And thanks for your help. And he's not eating your bees.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we've kind of had a discussion about this. Should we just, I don't know, maybe we should go ahead and have a vote about the numbers and parameters we talked about?
Might as well, it'll make me feel better moving forward.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion that we move forward with 2,500 bags at a price not to exceed what we paid before, which is around $4.42 a bag. The total cost will be a little over $11,000. The cost, we'll do 16 sponsor squares, maximized to fit the space. I'm not sure exactly what the number is. And then each sponsorship square will be $6.95.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? None. Okay. Okay, anything more with the bags? Okay,
How many squares do we have sold?
we haven't done any yet.
None yet. Okay,
Well,
so
I'll
they're
tell you
all
how
up.
many- I'll tell you how many we had before we were preempted. We had about $7,500 worth, so we had one Keystone pledger that pledged $2,500. So my idea is to actually potentially get him to to get the four center, to get the four center ones for roughly the same amount,
Okay.
which would be great. But then, like I said, we have 7,500, so if they all re-up, I will say this, though, it's only $695, so the amount, I haven't done the math, but it'll be, a little less than that, so we'll have to get a few more, but.
Do we have the 16 squares then? If that goes, that person goes for 4, how many squares do we have sold, Steve?
So
Okay,
those are many solid leads we have, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Should be an easier sell. It's a lower price.
It sounds a lot cheaper
Right,
for fewer bags, but still.
right. Well, one of the captains was sort of interested in the number of distributions, how many
Yeah.
pieces he'll have out there, so I'm not sure whether he'll sign back up or not, but we'll see.
Yeah, so I guess, but they'll actually get more bags. Will they get more than?
I can't recall. I don't think so, actually. I think they got more bags before because there were so many. I think the number was 5,000 we were going to distribute,
And, if we,
so you can get half as much.
and, we can, I think also we can kind of leave it as a bit of that's something we didn't talk about in motion, but I'll do that maybe, is that the proposal is to give them half of the bags that they pay for. But I think that what I'd like to do is if you get some pushback from that, if you want more bags, then we should give you the flexibility to negotiate that.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm making another motion that our target is to give the sponsors half the bags that they pay for, but we ought to authorize Steve to change that number if the negotiation indicates that it's desirable.
I'd like to just add that anybody can negotiate.
Oh, we need to, yeah, okay.
I
Anyway,
mean-
that's the motion.
Second.
Yeah, good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right?
Okay, opposed?
Yeah, that shouldn't be a deal breaker if somebody wants a few more bags.
All right. Glyphosate we heard about.
Yep.
So, I mean, it seems pretty definitive that we're not, I don't know what angle we can take on that now, because we've been told no by the state twice, right?
Department of Ag.
Even with your clever wording?
Oh, are we still on fertilizer? No,
Or on,
glyphosate.
yeah,
No, okay.
glyphosate.
So, but, there's two things that have happened that were good for this. And one is that the Chamber of Commerce contacted me and they want to roll this out. And I haven't given them anything yet because I wanted, actually, you know Jackie Lasik? Just reach out to her maybe and talk to her about if she wants to do a presentation or something to people about using glyphosate, or she wants a handout or anything, to support her. The other thing is Cape Coral. An email was forwarded to me. All these emails have been going to Allison for some reason. I don't quite know why. But the guy in Cape Coral was interested in what we were doing with the town was doing with not using glyphosate, and he kind of indicated that their applicators can only apply things that come from labeled containers.
Okay, that's not a problem. Oh, you mean they can't like dilute something or,
It seems silly to me because
What?
if
so they can change that?
yeah,
Like, can't they rewrite the ordinance? That's kind of silly. That's very
Or-
limiting.
or have print a label. I mean, I was gonna, and it kind of dried out. The guy really, I haven't talked to him very much in a while. I think he thought we really were addressing what he was asking. But I think that Miami Beach is doing this too, right?
Yeah, well, yeah,
And
and there's a whole
they're-
lot of California towns that are doing it.
And they're a much bigger town,
But it's
so
more of
they
a
have the same kind of
declaration.
rule.
It's a declaration that Miami Beach did that says that they won't use it on town or city properties.
But then they have to use something,
They do. They use an alternative. They might use that.
some labeled alternative, some commercial
Horrible stuff.
alternative. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, everything that Austin gets is labeled, but
that you mix.
Mixes it up, yeah, but you, like you said, you can make up a label and slap it on the side of the sprayer.
Whoever, yeah, if you're mixing it up in bulk, then you figure you can make a label. So anyway, that's kind of where that is. I'll reach out to the guy again and see if where he's at with it. But that's good, that's this, because Cape Coral is a huge city, and even getting the town to stop using it would be a big win, I think.
I mean, I'd like to talk to them anyway, because I don't really want them to use that deaminated fatty acid, because that stuff breaks down into the same stuff that glyphosate does, and it feeds the red tide, and it also says in big letters on the back of the container, do not use in an aquatic environment. And Cape Coral's just a little higher than we are, and the water table's right there. So it flies through the sand, and guess what? Just
Well,
water.
if you look at a map of Cape Coral,
Go something
it's
else.
aquatic, yeah.
And that's, whoever that is, they forwarded that stuff to you, and I don't like that other stuff either.
You want me to give you the information, you can reach out to him?
Yeah, you can give me his email, I'll email him. Not a problem. I'm working tonight, so I got lots of time. I'm just kidding, I'm very busy at work.
Okay. MRF issued citations, certifications. Now, the Island Yard, Patty's not here, so I think maybe just skip through that. Now, Patty's, she's doing the yard thing, and she is not going to re-up, and she's not coming back until November. He's been talking about trying to find somebody else from the garden club to sign up, but not having a whole lot of luck, because I think so many people in the garden club are snowbirds. So we can still work with them, but maybe not. You'll have to do it separately, outside of these meetings, maybe.
Well, one thing I noticed about the garden club, it's really more of a social club than a doing club. Is that on record? Anyway, so I think.
It's on YouTube, baby.
I'm just saying, it's not,
Did you hear that, Gary?
Viral.
But they already did a lot. I mean, we have a lot of paperwork. There were a lot of good ideas as to how to put this together.
We can,
if we do things with garden club, it would be more paperwork and
well,
advice more
but
than.
the other thing is, it'd be nice to influence the garden club
I would love to.
more towards the native, and there's.
I would love to do
I understand
that.
there's some people who are just sticking the ground. If it grows, it's great. Other people are more
Yep.
conscientious about it. And I think that if we can help with that, and I think this certification might be a good way to make people aware. I still would like to try to use them in some way.
There are a few women who are on board with that. Not just your wife, but there are a few who are real diehards with natives, but they're very few. So I don't really want them to be the only people doing it. We might have some luck with them, but it is a seasonal club as well.
And we can run with it. And we can do it on our own. We have what Patty has already come up with, which is a nice simple kind of thing, and we can modify it as we
Oh, yeah.
want. And then but then going out and actually doing the certifications, I'm not sure how much demand there's going to be for that and how much of a time suck it's going to be.
All right.
And I know it's something that I can't do because I'm not a plant guy. I couldn't pick out an invasive if it was biting me in the rear. Okay, let's just, I don't know, does anybody want to try to take over what Patty was doing and write the certification?
I don't know enough about it.
I've already got a certification program that's limping along.
Okay. Okay,
I'd have to make it all honor system, like people believe what people tell me.
Yeah, well, the rule, writing the rules are pretty simple. It's just being able to go there and figure out whether they're, and to actually certify is something that I'm not qualified to do, but to write a certification isn't that tough. You say not so many invasives. Okay, I can write that down.
Point being that they zero invasive.
Right, 0 invasives.
So, Bill, did you say Patty is not intending to re-up?
She's not.
And did she have a partial,
She does.
Yeah, she had like the little one-page thing, remember?
Right.
yeah, no, I
yeah.
mean, when is she
Oh.
When
due
she-
to renew her, I don't know what you,
Is it
Well, actually,
Candidacy.
after this meeting,
next month?
well, after, or maybe the next meeting, she's no longer on MRF, so you can, anybody can
oh, I see
communicate
what
with
you're
her
saying.
any
So
day
she's
way.
basically said
She said that in an email, that she's
She's
not going to
done.
re-up. And she said she's not coming back until after the next meeting anyway.
okay,
She's not here, but this would be the last meeting for her, so,
done, okay.
yeah.
That she stands alone.
So do we have a copy of the last paperwork that she,
Yeah, she gave
Yeah,
us
I have
copies.
a copy.
we
Yeah,
have
we
that?
have
Okay,
copies.
good.
Yeah.
I must have it somewhere.
Well, maybe everybody have a look at it and see if it's something that they want to jump in
Oh,
and
yeah, here it
take over.
is.
I mean, I still think it's a good idea. I don't want to abandon it, but, we need to probably just get it moving ourselves. And then we could, then we could use it if the garden club wants, if some members of the garden club want to go out and actually inspect the lawns, because that's kind of a social thing too. You meet new people.
Courtney.
Yep.
Courtney's house.
All right. Okay, turtle lighting certification.
So motivation's been a little bit of an issue since the season's waning to a close. We have maybe a dozen nests left, maybe, Rose?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I would say a dozen.
Sterling went last night, yeah.
There's about 6 of them in 5 and 6. I saw today, and about that many in the rest of them, yeah.
So I literally have all the information, all the presentation from FWC, from the Sea Turtle Conservancy. It's just a matter of putting it together. So, and knowing that the season was ending, I thought, actually, instead of this meeting, I was working on looking at the iguana and the manatee, doing a lot of study on the manatee deaths, which I thought maybe was a priority to that. So I'm not giving it up. I just think that with time before the next season, we get started before the season.
March, April, May next year?
Yeah, maybe even earlier. Hopefully. I mean, gotta apologize. It's been dragging along, so I need to get it finished. It's just a matter of really wrapping it up, I'd say.
Definitely. I think we need more compliance on that. I didn't know it was so loose. I didn't know there were so many violations.
I mean, it was, even last night I went to check, there's one about ready to pop, and I missed it. It actually did go last night, but I couldn't believe it. There's a guy that have been a problem. And he's lit up like a Christmas tree. It was like 11:20. I couldn't believe it. I could see his TV in there. I thought, I don't know if it's a rental or not, but thank God I took care of it. But they would have destroyed it. I guarantee you, if they hatched early.
They would have ran that way.
Oh, without question, without question.
Okay, it's interesting because of this whole disorientation thing, because, this year's been interesting because we have this lovely glut of hatches that are going on. So, there's been a lot of releases, planned releases. And it's amazing to me that, especially when you have a dark night, when there's a bunch of clouds out there and there's storms out in the ocean and you're not getting a lot of light from it, the turtles seem to just really be difficult to get them sometimes to head the right direction. Other times, if it's a pretty clear night, boom, or a big moon or this kind of stuff. So, there's a lot of other factors besides the lights, I think, that can cause disorientations. Although, obviously, lights are I'm not downplaying the risk of lights, but, some nights are more difficult than others that we found.
Try to educate, and bring attention to it.
Another thing that I was kind of thinking about is, really apart from the certification, or maybe even part of it, is that, I think a lot of people think that if you're not on the beach side of Estero, that you don't have to worry about lights. Because I know some places that, if you have a place like the Red Coconut where this time of year, there's not a lot of RVs there. And those RVs then are not blocking the light. And you can stand on the beach and you can see a ways across the Estero. Now, I don't know how often that's a problem.
Oftentimes, I think. And I think that we lost a lot of vegetation in some of the storms last year, and as a result, a lot of lights that were not visible when the greenery was up are now visible. We have some serious problems about lighting.
Are any of you aware of the change of the side street fixtures, lighting fixtures to the LEDs?
Oh, yeah, they just did the one in front of my house.
Right, is it bright?
It's about the same.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
because
It's
there's
just really
been a real
flat.
problem with them, yeah. I mean,
No, it's
right,
about
they're
the same.
flatheads, but they shouldn't really be casting light out too far, so they've actually had to shut a few off. But you'd think that they'd have a turtle-friendly light along the coast, FPL.
Yeah, that's one of the things too about, being not necessarily even on the, on a sterile boulevard, is that, when you stand at a lot of beach accesses, they line up with the street.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, like at
Yeah.
Sterling, it picks up the car wash, it picks up the light in front of the ladies' club,
Sure.
all of it.
And, I mean, it's a pretty narrow stretch of beach that, that's affected by it, I think, usually. But depends on how narrow the beach is there and a lot of other factors. But with the more nests, the higher the odds are that a nest is going to be in the wrong place for that kind of lighting. One thing we can consider maybe researching or looking at is there something that we can do on the beach accesses, like put up a fence or some kind of a light barrier for as much of the beach access as we can.
Yeah, I can't picture it, Bill.
Okay, looks like the one I'm really familiar with, of course,
Planting,
is
you mean, or with,
anything that's a barrier of light. I mean, anything that, the problem with plants, of course, is that storm comes and, there's some variability there. But, where Connecticut Street, there's a little path that goes through, and then there's kind of a fence, but it's open. It's just pilings with a couple of boards on it. What if we fill that in so that it obstructed all the light? So when cars pulling into the beach access, you limit the amount of light that goes out onto the beach.
I see what you mean.
And for that matter, even people like driving up the street that's on the other side of Estero, and to some degree the street lights, but street lights are high, so it's harder to really block the street lights. But it's kind of like the whole thing with the 45% opacity that you need for the windows. You need to put that in, but that doesn't mean you can keep your blinds open.
Right.
of course. Yeah.
It just helps. You need to do it, but it's not a cure. So if something like this, putting a way to block lights, and maybe we need to go down to different beach accesses and try to figure out which ones would get the benefit from it, that it just helps.
Well, we still have a lot of problems with the condos. That's a real problem. And I think this is where maybe this educational will do its best, when you can go to a condo association and get them to buy in.
Yeah, because after
South, yeah.
after my last chat with council, I said, I'll come up with a letter that I could write from, one beachfront owner to another, and my experiences, and, I mean, the exterior lights are easy.
Right.
Even if you don't want to get rid of your fixtures, and, we have floodlights in the back of our house, but we don't rent it out. We know where the switch is, so we're not turning that switch on during turtle season. If you have a rental, then they don't know that. But, if they still want to have bright lights for the winter, there's all kinds of covers you can put on light switches. There's locks you can do where you can lock them. There's all kinds of things they can do that are very simple for the exterior lights. The big thing, like with the condos point out, is the interior lights, because, renters never close the blinds for the living room.
Doors open, lights on, windows open.
And,
right,
we have
AC running.
And we have big windows because everybody wants to look out at the beach. I mean, that's the view, so that's what you do. So I kind of got stalled with that. We have blinds that just are, they're powered, so we set a time and they just close, and it's kind of a done deal. But other than that, I don't know what, and that's something I'm not sure if the people would, if the renters would like very much.
Well, there's also an issue of who's going to pay for it. Are the owners going to pay for it? And are you going to get people to actually do it, and people who have apathy and don't?
Yeah.
I mean, the rental houses are all going to be a crapshoot. Who's going to do it, who's not?
Yeah, and there's, and the renters, you're retraining someone every week. And they put stuff in the, they try to educate people, but a lot of people don't read any of that stuff. They don't know. Well, think about it. I mean, you know, if, because we have now, like I said, we're getting near the end, but it's probably the time to do this is before next turtle season. Right, so
Correct.
we can get something going before that.
And what do we want to do here? Do we want to have like a sticker that we're going to put on everybody's house who agrees to
Little sign,
something like that?
yeah, try to drive,
So we want a list of things that people are going to promise to do, like,
checklist, yeah, I mean, actually,
little
you would
checklist.
go and you'd say, okay, I see turtle, I've got turtle bulbs, and that, not unlike what Ray was doing with her surveys. Her lighting survey, you would just make that, if you pass all the check marks, you would receive that certification, you get a nice,
a little sticker, right?
yeah, well, sign, yeah,
Right.
certified turtle-friendly lighting.
You know, so as part of that, you know, maybe some things that target specifically renters. So like if you're renting, then things like maybe have a lock or a cover over switches that maybe they're not turtle friendly. You know, in what kind of, I think they're obligated by some already, right, to put some kind of information about turtles, the rentals.
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, I even have a checklist like that, right? It's just exhaustive, so I thought, you know, part of this process is going through and weaning through and trying to figure out what should stay and
And we
what
only
wouldn't.
want
And I
like
know
about 6
I shouldn't
points.
be the only one doing it either, but I have to get it down to at least something that's manageable for our group. There's so much material.
Do we want a sticker that people could put on their window that would say, "Close these drapes when the sun goes down"? Save the turtle, close these drapes?
Tell you the truth, I don't even
you
think I
think
would
they'd
read
even
that.
notice it?
I don't even think I'd read it if I was, no, I'd
No?
be too excited to be on the beach and in and out the door. I don't even think.
Big sticker, okay.
Well, like you said, you put something over the light switch and then they can read it before they lift it up. Oh, gee, it's May through October. He need to not have these on, you know. That's
Yeah, but again,
a
you know,
barrier.
the light switch is easy, I think. I mean, it's easily managed with a little bit of technology.
It's also something.
The
you have
blinds
to
are not
live-
so
Point of
much.
focus, yeah.
You would see it and you'd read it, hopefully.
But, you know, I think
Turn the lights on.
a window sticker is I think, maybe a good idea. And whether we do it or whether, because that's really not a certification, that's information, right?
Right.
Maybe that's something that the Turtle Time,
See, that's what I was just thinking, is it worth something that Turtle Time might invest in? That's the little decal for the window.
they do all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, yeah, I'll talk to Eve and see
I sure will.
if she wants any help with the weekend, but I think she's,
One of those two-sided appliques, you know, that you just stick on there,
Right.
plastic ones.
And something that's eye-catching, a turtle, probably.
or if you want to really be effective, just have it cover the entire window.
Yeah.
Mural kind of.
Put a tire tread across it.
Life-size, in other
Tire
words.
track
A
across the
350-pound
back.
loggerhead, right, yeah. Yeah, I'll check into that.
Okay. Okay, anything more on that, Steve?
Nope.
Boy, there's a lot of Steve stuff on this list now. How'd that happen?
To keep him out of trouble.
Okay. Invasive lizards. I'm still laughing about that, by the way.
We're not doing that. Is that on there? It's not on here, so
I
we can
know.
talk about that
I
before
put it
the
on-
good Murphy.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can.
We can
I
talk
never
about
sent you
invasive
that one,
lizards.
yeah.
I wasn't excited
I
about
know-
invasive lizards until they started eating my bees, because I have a
They-
beehive.
They're eating your
They ate
bees?
my bees. My neighbor, the population is significantly decreased, and I thought,
Which lizards?
maybe they swarmed. Those agame,
Really?
and I took pictures. Okay,
I'd love to see your photo.
okay. So I got a trap, and Bill said he got a trap. And did you get the latest picture? My husband just shot one about 2 hours ago.
Oh, did he?
Sorry, is that on record? Pellet gun, it's legal, really.
Are they the ones with the red head?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the yellow tail and the blue
And
body.
they're all over like the Connecticut Street area. And here's kind of the story, because, you know, they're supposed to be, I talked to a guy who, and I know his name, but I forget the organization, where they are involved in trying to curtail the spread of these lizards, of these invasive species of lizards. And I talked to him, he said, you know, his advice was drink a couple beers and run around the yard with a net is the best way to get them, which sounded like a lot of fun. But I went on, I got a trap anyway, and
Sucker.
I got a trap anyway, and it's one of those, the humane ones.
Have a heart.
Yeah.
5 trap.
And put some different things in there to try, and I put some chicken skin in there, and I caught one little female agama. And so I kept doing it and kept catching them. Even caught a big male, and then
What was that male?
yeah, and then Shannon already has one. She's ordered the littler ones, but she has a bigger one, and she's caught like what now? That makes
I have
four?
caught 5. My husband shot 2, and 1 got out of the trap. So I've caught 7, and they've all been about, the females are about like this. And then this,
I've yet to see one.
this
I
is a
can't believe
male?
it either.
Have you found where they nest?
under my damn house, sorry.
Or their eggs? Can you find the nest?
No, but the females are fat. Well, they're probably eating my bees, and that's why they're fat. Anyway, shut up, it's not funny. I have
No,
a
you're-
significant decline in my bee
I know,
population.
it's
I
not.
like honey.
Your passion is just so much
Okay,
fun.
I'm not.
I should
listen
read
to
the
this,
message you
though.
sent me because it was just,
I've been sending him, game on, let's get a big board and tack them up there, and like Bill and me. And then I got 5 neighbors in on it. And the guy next door is getting a slingshot. He's kind of funny. Guy down the street, Ray or Roy, has a pellet gun. He says he's been shooting them. And then the guy next door is going to try to trap him. And then my neighbor on the other side. Anyway, so there's 5 people on our street now that are trying to get him.
and I've got some neighbors who are interested in trapping them too.
Well, if you said the trapper had no luck, I caught 8 in 2 days.
What'd you use for bait?
Chicken skin. Rotisserie chicken from Publix or
Yeah,
Walmart.
okay.
They eat that stuff, man.
Oh.
And my husband made chicken salad today out of the leftovers, and they ate that. Just FYI. But they did not eat the banana, and they did not eat the canned dog food, so don't use that. They don't like.
Has their behavior changed since you've been
No,
hunting
they
them?
still sit right by my.
They're still bold.
They have claws, and they get on the side of my beehive, and when the bees fly in with a little slit,
Oh.
they just eat them like this. And so I thought, oh, they swarmed. Okay, well that's good. That's a healthy hive when they swarm, right? And then the neighbor said, oh, those big colorful lizards are picking off your bees, and I went, oh, game on. This
Yeah.
is war. This
Yeah,
is
see,
war.
we've got I've really slowed down because I see the little agamas still
Yeah,
running
they get
around,
out.
but I don't see many big ones running around the yard.
This
as
guy
much.
was a foot long, and his color faded. He was that real colorful with the, and then after he died, 5 minutes later, he looks like that. He got all pale. And that's the one that you caught. And I said, it looks like an iguana, but his tail stayed the same because the females don't have that tail like that.
Yeah, I mean they're some of the
They're
colors.
all gray.
Yeah, they have a little blue in them. Some of the probably more
Yeah.
desirable ones.
No, I don't see them. They're
Or
not
they're
down by
new
us yet.
You know, I've heard that it's like spotty around the island. Okay, so, which brings me to this. I think that I would like to, the next month or two, or, because I'm going to be gone pretty much next month, is to write like a guide to invasive lizards on the island. And send it to the papers. But I need pictures of the different lizards,
Okay, well, let
preferably
me,
alive, so they're.
I did some research. I sent you all the Sanibel policy on invasive lizards, and theirs deals mostly with iguanas and monitor lizards. And I don't know if we
Right.
have monitors. Yeah, and they send their police force out. Did you read that? It's ridiculous.
I thought it was,
Well, no,
they
have a
contract with a trapper.
Yeah.
Right, but they said you call them, and they send the police to go, oh, yeah,
They administer it.
it's
The
right.
police take the calls and then they dispatch the trapper.
So we don't have that luxury, I guess. I don't know, because a trapper, the city, I don't know if we can get to pay for a trapper. So on private property, I don't know how we're going to.
Well, I think,
For environmental.
I think that's something that we can do. I mean, this is not something we're
town is gonna-
initiating, right? This was, the town manager brought this to us.
So they will contract a trapper to come and.
No, but, well, I don't know. But I think what we need to do is we need to come up with a strategy for managing the lizards. And part of that is figuring out where they are, because like you guys said, you don't see these,
Right.
you
Yeah,
walk down,
I've got the curly tails and they moved in about 2 years ago.
yeah, we had them until these agamas came.
Oh, yeah, and they are eating those red-headed ones with the anole.
The anoles, yeah.
And we've got iguanas, but I have a suggestion. There's a man who was at the meeting last night, Rick Bauer. Did you meet him, Bill? He's a new employee of the county. His expert is herpetology, and he said he knows about the invasive lizards on Fort Myers Beach. I think he would be willing to come and talk to us if we indeed want to do that. No, he works for the county. He's a new Lee County employee. Rick Bauer is his name.
Oh. Do you have contact information?
I could, yeah, I do.
Okay.
Bauer.
I called Animal Services on Banner Drive, and they said, honey, we don't deal with them, we just deal with dogs and cats, so.
He did say off the top of his head, he doesn't think we have a problem here. And I said, well, a lot of people think we do. So,
Yeah,
we
no,
would
I'm saying-
appreciate your expertise if you would tell us what we're dealing with and how to deal with
I
them.
have an iguana this big, it lives in the oak tree next to my house, and there's those 3 huge ones at Mound House. Iguanas.
I've got a big one that's been reproducing for about 3 years.
So-
But I think if we contact him, he might be a good lead. And I think he might have these photos that we need and whatever else.
I contacted the extension office also. My beekeeper said to call the extension office, and he said he hadn't heard any other beekeepers talking about eating their bees. So I sent him an email. He said he would document it and send it out and see if there's anything he knows, if how they're catching them, how they're trapping them. So I have emails out to the IFAS office. I have the guy's name written down. Anyway, and then you have a copy of Sanibel's ordinance. They already have the ordinance. Do we have monitor lizards? I don't know that we have.
No,
those.
I don't think we do.
I don't think we do. And,
I think they're Cape Coral.
and I think that like the monitor lizards are, they're aggressive towards people, and
Oh, yeah.
the problem with the iguanas is they dig and do property damage, particularly on like, I think, seawalls and stuff. They're known for it. So, like we were asked specifically about the iguanas, but I think I'd like to come up with a thing with all the different invasives, and also educate people that, don't let your pets go.
Well, it's interesting for us too. We need to find out what we're dealing with, how many different beasts we have here.
And this one thing, and that I want to do, and I might even do it before coming up with some kind of story on it, is just to send her like a letter to the editor or something to say, if you have lizards on your property, send us a picture of them. Let us know where you are, and try to get an idea where the lizards are just by talking to people.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Somebody said that. I
For-
think, yeah.
From what I read, what they're saying is you need to address the prevention, the exclusion, what are the deterrents, and how to modify your habitat to discourage them before you start shooting or
I don't
otherwise
want-
disposing of them. But I think you've probably already tried that, Shannon.
But I just don't want people to use poison because we have the feral cats. We have like 4
Exactly.
on my street, and they would eat the chicken right off the bat, even
Yeah.
if it was, I don't think they can get in the trap. Maybe a cat. I don't think they would get
Kittens,
into the
maybe.
trap.
Well, if
It's
they,
a pretty small trap.
Oh.
yeah, if they do, then it's
And they,
just let 'em
we
go.
don't poison it, and it would probably just hit its back. I don't think it could fit in there. So I think
Yeah.
they could, I don't think a cat would, but I just don't want people to put out poison because, and the raccoons too. Well, yeah,
It's just not a good idea. Yeah, let's,
yeah, I don't want
No.
people to do that.
Well,
So
that's
we
the
give
thing we can
other
do, I mean,
Things to do.
Because it does sound like too, like, maybe different lizards have different ways to try to dealing with them. Because like an iguana, maybe there's a certain trap. Obviously, I don't think iguana's going to go for chicken. I think they're vegetarian. I think they're herbivores.
yeah, mango, they said, is what you want for iguanas.
And they're massive.
Right.
So, maybe the town wants to contract with a trapper to get the iguanas. Maybe for something like the agamas, if we have, the other thing is if we become aware of homeowners that are interested and will allow us to set traps on their property and they have the lizards, then we can even do that ourselves.
And I would like to know, I think you mentioned where they're nesting. I know they're under my house.
Because that would be definitely a way to cut down on those numbers, if we could find
Yeah.
those nests, Shannon.
Well, we have 3 black snakes under my house, and I have a yellow rat snake, and I don't think they're eating them. Well, the
Not
rat snake
fast
eats
enough.
rats. But the snakes are still there, but I don't know how to find where they're nesting or where they put their eggs. I don't know any of
I
that.
heard that they stick eggs somewhere.
Oh, still, yeah.
Yeah, look in cracks underneath decks and things like that, along the planks, where the joist meets.
They are,
So they're
yeah,
individual, not a cluster?
like
Correct, yeah. I
one-
mean, most
one egg at a time,
Lizards are?
lizards
Yeah.
are, yeah.
like a gecko egg, where they stick it on in a tree crack.
Yeah, I mean,
Because they're up in the trees and they're all over my balconies. Okay.
Do you know, like with the agamas, they like some fish and I mean some reptiles where the biggest one becomes the male, where they change genders or they born a gender. Because I haven't seen, I've had one male and a bunch of females.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I have, it sounds funny, but there's like a male in the backyard and then there's 2 in the front yard. I've seen like 1 in each palm tree, and then there's 1 that stays in the back.
And the idea that you said about like trying to change the habitat to not encourage them, unfortunately, they like the natural habitat, so, you
Yeah,
know,
they love Florida, right.
other than, you know, concrete in your yard and cutting down your trees.
I have little baby, I know it's them, and they're like this big now, hatching out. Because I don't have any of those.
That would be a
I
pretty
know
good
it.
size egg then,
Yeah.
if they're coming out that size already. I
Well,
mean,
they're
even
just
all
crawling
curled up,
over.
they'd have to be, like the egg would have to be at least,
There's some that are really small, too.
oh, so then the eggs are probably pretty
I
small.
think the hub is at my front yard.
I think this herpetologist will
Yeah, I think
will
maybe
really
we should,
clarify a lot of things for us if we can get him to the meeting, or maybe our next meeting.
Yeah, like, I can call the extension office.
yeah. Rick Bauer, I spoke with him yesterday. He said he would be,
Okay.
he's amenable to it. And I'll send you his contact, Shannon.
You're going to do that, Shannon?
Yeah, I'll talk to him, and then I'll see if there's somebody at the extension office, too. So is he a herpetologist, that Rick
Yeah,
Bauer?
he is.
Okay.
He is.
okay.
And he said he would come. He couldn't come today, though. I said, we don't want you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, send me his email, and I'll see if I can get him at the next meeting.
I sure will.
Okay, yeah, that would be, and, you know, and pick his brain, let him know what you're doing and what
Right,
you're
we'll have a
seeing,
list of all these questions about these eggs and where the clutches are and,
Yeah, where we
Yeah.
can flush them out.
but the big thing is to find out exactly how many species we're dealing with.
and where they are.
Yeah,
Those curly-tailed ones, what do those eat? Those are all over the Lighthouse Resort,
I
by the
don't
way.
know.
Eating a
Maybe
knoll,
the-
everything,
little
same thing as
chameleons?
most lizards, yeah.
Aren't
I mean,
their
but
eyes
I
go
think they're
like
eating the
that?
knolls too, yeah, the
Are they
knollies.
chameleons? Because their eyes are like this on the top of their head. Is that the one you're talking
No,
about?
no,
And their tail goes like this?
curly tail, yeah. it
Yeah,
goes
that's
all the way
another
up.
kind.
They're-
It's a
they're-
spiral.
They're kind of a smaller than the,
I mean, heavily
the
scaled
agamas.
lizards, yeah, they're pretty
They-
heavy
and
scales.
they're fast,
They
but they're like
change
between
color.
the anole size and the big
I
agamas.
think they're at the,
They stand their ground too, I mean, if you know, as you walk toward them, they just don't go scampering off like,
send me a picture of one.
yeah, I
Because
will.
I think that they're at the, do they change
I've
color?
eliminated a few on my property too.
Stomped on them?
Yeah, you know, if any, and pictures would be
Like
great.
your
If you-
husband.
If you have a
Yeah.
picture of the lizards, preferably alive,
Yeah, they're all over the lighthouse. I don't know if it's
Then,
the same, though.
the different lizards, and they would make a good story, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if those are harmful, though. I don't know what they are. There's just tons of
Well,
them.
I saw one chasing an anole across my yard once.
Oh,
I also saw a snake chasing an anole across my yard.
Interesting, because they were sort of at the front of the block on a stero, and I noticed them, but they weren't around my house, and sure enough, it took them about a year and a half to make it all the way down, you know, I mean, just another, another block maybe, turned a corner, and
Yeah.
now they're getting established.
But part of, you know, and part of any kind of story about the invasive lizards is why they're bad. Because for a
Yeah, I
lot of
don't
people,
know.
they don't
Yeah.
really, you know,
yeah, they're killing our native.
well, that's the
Estimating
thing is,
that,
you know,
yeah,
it's
the native
evidence, like, you know, your bee thing.
flora.
My
And
bees.
have you seen that or just been told that?
No, they sit on the side. They have long claws in the you know, and they sit on the side of the box. And as they're flying in, they go, and you can see
Wow.
them. You can see them. You can look through my stairs. My beehive is there, and they're. Anyway, I put the trap right there. It's so annoying. Sorry.
oh,
I really
man.
like my bees.
Oh, man.
And then the
Well,
bees.
bees
like
are-
the,
I've seen an anole eat a monarch butterfly. And I'm sure that, you know, if they're eating bees, they're probably eating all kinds of.
what do you call it?
Everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
Sunshine mimosa is blooming, and bees love that. So the lizards are in my backyard, and the bees are down there and I know they're eating them off you know, they're all over. There's the sunshine flowers all over.
It's amazing that they
somebody's
can eat
garden.
them because, you know, bees sting.
I know, and then that fat one that you caught, and I said, it's probably full of bees, or else it just got all stung, because it was so fat.
Well, you're lying.
Oh, fat one.
You guys are sharing photos of your carcasses?
Yes.
It's been a very lively
Maybe we put a
Dead
back and
lizard.
forth.
We're
Maybe-
having a contest
Maybe
here.
you put a bounty on them, like the Burmese, the pythons.
He sent me a picture of
Bring
the
'em
third
down there.
lizard, which was really fat, and I said, well, it's obviously a female. And I said, I think she's full of bees.
She said, just caught number 4, stupid fat mother, probably full of my bees.
Yeah. I'll show you all a pic.
Probably
Gary,
is.
I can email you the pic of the fat mother. Just saying. Got it, right here. It's in my trash can if you want another picture.
She spelled it M-U-T-H-A.
Oh, man. On a serious note, I'm looking at a list here of Florida invasive lizards. Common green iguana, Mexican spiny-tailed iguana, black spiny-tailed iguana, brown basilisk, night antelope, Jamaican giant antelope, Nile monitor, giant whiptail, tegu. And that was just in the one spot. So that's why I think we need to get some advice on how
Yeah.
many things we're dealing with here and how to go about it.
And there are places.
And if we need to, maybe in fact we don't need to.
What is that? That's not what you sent us, is it?
Well, I think I sent you the link. Well, this is just another thing that I found.
Well, is there like, oh, see, because I don't know how half those are or what they look like.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. That's why we need someone to come and talk to us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe we don't have these things here on our island. We don't need to think about them.
Yeah, and there are sites where people report them. Although, like, I remember, like, I looked up the curly-tailed lizard when I had one in my yard, and there was no indication that there are any curly-tailed lizards in our area, but they're there.
But there they are. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I went to record like 3 years ago, I went to that invasive website and I put the agame, because I looked it up. Agame from West Africa, it's invasive. So I go to that website and it was only reported in Dade County. So I said, well, guess what? They're out here. And I sent a picture, sent it off, because you can report it on that website. And then I got this thing saying, thank you. And that was it. But now they're in Cape Coral. We were at a road race at Rotary Park, and they have a big iguana in a cage, and we were talking, and the guy goes, oh, I have those real colorful ones in Cape Coral, so they're in Lee County, all over Lee County. I don't know.
Yeah, and it may be more of a continuing effort just to contain the population as opposed to get rid of them.
Well, yeah, because I don't know how we're going to get the babies.
But if you can, if you can get the males,
Yeah.
if there are very
I
few,
got
if there are
one,
few males, so, okay.
Yeah, I only have 3 of those.
So with this then, let's just continue on what we're doing.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah, we'll have the herpetologist next month.
do a little public outreach for it. We'll get some little more information, try to figure out what we're dealing with. And we can suggest to Roger and council that they should consider trapping using a trapper like Sanibel does for people who want it and the Mound House. I know some people are, there's going to be some pushback because some people really like them. They don't want to,
Well, they are pretty, but
Yeah, well, you won't get all of them. Even if you start trapping, there will still be some.
Okay,
we talk about manatees?
let's talk about manatees.
Okay, so I looked at the web link that Mary Rose sent.
Right.
And we have Estero Bay in Bonita. There were 2 deaths. One was boat, one was not recovered. If all of the ones that she listed, I only found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from Estero Bay, which is us, and we can't tell Lee County what to do, and she's talking about 33 deaths in Lee County. But the Bonita one was not recovered. Estero Bay Bonita was a boat. Little Carlos Pass was a boat. Big Carlos Pass was a boat. And then one in Estero Bay was decomposed. And then Ostego Bay had 2 that were killed by boats. Everything else was Matlacha, Calusa, Hatchie River was the majority. Orange River, Fish Trap Bay, Whiskey Creek,
over, yeah,
Matlacha,
Coast,
Gasparilla.
all the way up.
Yeah, it's
Right.
all over.
And they're all documented.
Yeah,
They're
and
all
so-
listed.
And so, she's asking what to do. Well, I just saw this in the paper this week. Here, Steve, let's hear you. Sorry. Look, this is in this paper, September 4th through 10th. Voters, I don't know, this is out there. There's already other
cautioned, right.
things, right, besides us. So most of the deaths were Lee County, Caloosahatchee River. So when she's saying we have to do something about it,
So, I actually went in even deeper. I mapped them and everything else, but I had 8, not 7, that I would consider
Okay.
by us. 6 of them were by boating, 2 were by other means, so 75% of them were by boating. But that was year-to-date, I guess this past month. 2018, they didn't have data for whatever reason, and 17, we had 6 all year. 2016, we had 7 all year. And we
for
had-
our area.
For our area,
Yeah.
exactly the same type of area, like that, I had dropped the 2 that were, it's technically Estero Bay, but they're all the way down by Bonita.
Yeah,
It's all
that's
way
the
down
2 I
by
had, yeah.
The river, coming out of the river, basically.
Right, so that's really not the Fort Myers Beach.
And 4 in 2015, no. So 8 year-to-date, there's an increase, but in real numbers, I hate to put it that way, because if they were turtles or something else, every
Yeah.
one you want to obviously save, but But I'm looking at this from a municipal aspect, in that these animals don't really ever jump up on the land even, like sea turtles do. So it's really boating. I mean, it's all about boating practices, boating practices, boating practices, boating practices. So, I mean, if she wants to get involved, there's the Save the Manatee Club. Actually, we, phoned them when we got here, and they sent us a sign, and a little sign if you can hold out when you're boating to say, hey, there's a manatee in the water, slow down. If she wants to get more involved, I'm not sure what we can recommend to the town council to do that maybe Joanne didn't even mention, which was just put up more,
I mean, we have signs that say manatee, no wake zone. and
There
all
are,
that.
yeah. It's really an enforcement issue. I mean, it's about the enforcement of people that are speeding through, or running the backwaters when it's, right now, this time of year, you're not allowed to be, it has to be no wake outside of the channels, the whole bay. But you see guys back in,
The one question I had was like, how many of these boat strikes were they, do we know if any of them were in the channels, or were they?
It just said Estero Bay.
well, it shows where they were, they're
Where they're
pinpointing.
found.
Oh, you
they
mapped them,
found
yeah.
them,
Found them.
so.
So you don't know, I mean, because I know, the other day I was out at Little Carlos Pass, the southern one there, and it was just, I mean, it was a washing machine full of boats. I mean, boats are hauling, all moving really fast all over the place, and I was thinking and I saw that that's a place where there are some strikes. So, but it seems like that in the channel, they only do no wake if it's damaging property, right?
What's that?
They only seem to do no wake zones in the channel if the wake is as close to a dock or something
Well,
like that.
or unless it's a manatee zone.
But even in the channel.
In the channel, well, they'll slow it down to a no wake. I mean, that's sort of essentially, I mean, there is a property aspect down by Fishtail, the no wake before you hit Big Carlos.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, the portion ahead of it now is actually no wake for manatee purposes.
That's seasonal?
And it says, no, I think
No, it's all year.
yeah,
Is that, people observe it as a rule?
no, I mean, there's people come
And there's
flying
signs there.
through there.
It's marked, and there's signs.
Yeah, I mean,
So
just
it
like
would be enforcement.
channels show that, between May, I think it's May and October maybe, it's no, no wake zone outside of the channel, and people are just flying back there, but there's no sheriffs or no.
See, that's the problem.
nobody
The law is
enforcing
there,
it.
but
So who enforces that? We don't have. we
You
would
know
have
what's
to use
interesting?
Coast Guard,
Somehow,
Sheriff.
U.S. Fish and Wildlife's responsible for back in like Halpeckney. I don't know if you guys know your base, Halpeckney Bay, way back there. Somehow, U.S. Fish and Wildlife is responsible back there, and not the FWC for speeding. I can't remember why. Maybe because it's a.
seen a U.S. Fish and Wildlife person?
I got stopped by
Yeah.
one once.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, in an official boat and everything?
in a boat. Yeah, July
Okay.
4th. Yep.
So they're out there, okay.
Yep. Yep. But that's the only time, and they were there just trying to write tickets for people. But I didn't get one.
One idea I had, because I mean, one of the problems you really have is we don't have a very big toolbox for this. I mean, the town's jurisdiction, I don't know if it applies very much.
Right.
There's some places, I mean, and if you lobby to try to make some of the manatee zones bigger, there'd probably be a lot of pushback from boaters and whatnot. But one idea I had that might be pretty simple to do is like with the kind of the temporary little signs that we made, that maybe we can make a sign for marinas that just put out just during manatee season.
Or we could just tell them, and they need to stress no wakes. I mean, do you think it's renters people who rent boats that are doing all the speeding, or is it,
They do, but not necessarily. I
so
mean,
it's both, it's
both.
owners,
As a matter of fact,
residents?
I think probably non-renters are probably worse, just because they know there's nobody around.
So-
They're familiar with the waters.
I don't know, as much as we would like to add something, I don't know that there's really anything we can do.
Or just,
Encourage that woman to do as she said. She wanted to go to marinas and ask them to
Well-
remind people. That's a good idea.
I mean, there's 20 that are in the Clishatchee River. I mean,
Yeah.
That's a majority,
Even
but,
more, I mean, there's a ton.
but that's Lee County, and you're
Yeah.
talking about, that's a lot of boats. That's a large area. Yeah, and Pine Island Sound and Matt Lachey had a lot
Right.
also.
One by Lakes Park, the 10-mile canal, that goes all the way up in there. They found one up there.
So I don't,
But it might have
Surprising.
just been washed up into there.
Pretty far, yeah.
I wanted to tell her something. We looked into this.
Right.
You know, and we found, you know, we have 7 out of the, well, one of them was too decomposed to tell. I think one of them was a baby perinatal or something.
Perinatal, right?
Yeah,
Born.
so I didn't, wanted to tell her, we looked into it, and like Bill said, it's just gonna be enforcement.
It's enforcement.
Of
How
the
can we
weight
help
sense.
with that? We can't tell people how to do their job.
We could,
No,
I mean,
it's a
we
known
can-
problem. I mean, it's not the first article. I read that same article, and it's not the first one I've seen on it.
Right.
that
and
the
this,
deaths
yeah,
are
this
up.
is new, you know, and it's right, this is, we have manatee zone, we have, those are all in the bay, so people are just ignoring it, so.
Well, also, I
enforcement.
mean, there's also boating practice where you should have a lookout at all times, because they will come out into the channel, even, you know, even if you're not going too fast.
Right.
They're so slow moving, you can still strike them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're down for a while, they only pop up, yeah. So I don't know.
So, yeah, the Save the Manatee Club was started by Jimmy Buffett and one of the old, in 1981, along with an old governor, a past governor of
There's
Asia back
nothing
in
you
the
can
80s.
put on your boat so that it doesn't cut them up, you know, like they had cow guards or cow catchers or something?
Really?
I remember
Is there?
they used to, on trains, didn't they have things that said they?
Oh, you'd never get
Yeah.
private citizen to do that, though.
No,
No.
jet boats are better for them, but you still, I mean, that skeg is what just chops them, cuts them. I mean, it's not, I don't even think it's that much the propeller, because the skeg goes down lower to protect the propeller.
Can you define what a skag
Oh,
is?
so it's not the propeller that's doing it.
So, yeah, skeg
Plate that
kind of
comes
looks
down
like
the engine
this,
past the propeller,
and the
I think.
propeller is here. So the propeller turns like that,
Yeah.
but underneath it,
that's
it's
that
a big
thing.
skeg
Oh, okay,
thing, and
okay.
it's sharp, and it's about this thin, and that's what's giving them all those
Oh,
scars. I
okay.
mean,
And what is that?
unless you see,
Is
You
that to
know.
protect the propeller? Is that what
it
that
is, yeah.
Okay.
Usually I see them, I mean, they're obviously prop marks.
Yeah,
You know,
there's a
like when you
bunch
go
of
out to
them.
the power
There's like-
plant, and you see them, and there's so many of their scarred.
Yeah.
There was a manatee mating incident by our house where there was a dozen males around this female, and
Right.
one of the
Remember
manatees,
that.
its tail was like shredded. I mean, it had like 8 tabs coming down its
Wow.
tail from it.
Wow.
It was so obviously, and then you get those prop scars are so obvious. But
Right.
One right after another.
yeah,
So you can't put any kind of guard over that, Steve? No, it would, the
Well,
boat wouldn't work
Wouldn't
then.
work, yeah.
yeah, you can't really.
There's nothing you
Really
could
hinder
do to,
performance.
And I don't think, I don't think you can,
It's not necessarily cuts that kill them, it's that blunt, that blunt
Oh,
trauma,
smash,
that blunt
yeah.
force
Yeah,
trauma
and
that
I don't know- I don't know
breaks-
what-
gives them internal injuries.
I don't think there's any way that Fort Myers Beach could mandate something on
no, but
boats that
as a
operate, you know.
suggestion, you know, if it were available, you could say, would you, if you really care about manatees, you would put this on add this to your boat.
But if it's not gonna,
If it doesn't exist, yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
I could see
How
them putting them
about,
on the
is there
pontoon.
like a horn or something that would, if you're near a manatee on the boat, it would go, and let you know?
Kind of like the deer
Some-
whistle.
Yeah,
those
like a
deer's
deer,
whistles.
yeah,
Something in the water that would scare away manatees.
right.
Well,
Or
the
just
sound- the
warn
sound of the
people that
motor
it's in the
should.
area.
They're just so slow moving, yeah. It's just the sound of the motor.
You just have to
Yeah.
look for them, there's nothing.
Yeah, you have to be aware of where the,
and
sort of
that's,
where they're
and
where
that's
they're
the
at.
key, is that they're not aware, they're going too fast.
Yeah,
So-
or they just don't know the waters either. I mean, I know where to find manatee out there. You know, I know that they stay in near grass
certain
and certain
areas.
areas, yeah.
Near the islands.
You know, it would be interesting though, I mean, is anybody researching a way to try to make the propellers more safe in a strike? Because if there is, I mean, one thing
Not
we
that
could
we
do
know
is,
of, yeah.
yeah, we could.
Well,
we
jet boat, I mean, that's the,
could- Right, it's a whole different design though. I was thinking
right.
if there's any way we could go and convince, if there was something that we could do, then go to the rental companies and encourage them to make the rental boats more manatee safe.
Exactly.
But usually those boats aren't very, well, the ones I've been on are like these pontoons that don't go very fast anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I don't know. I
can
don't
put,
really
like,
have suggestions for
Plastic
her.
pieces on this propeller so that it wouldn't be sharp and it would still work? It wouldn't
But you're
work.
still
I
hitting
think
them.
performance would be,
You're still
Yeah.
hitting them really hard, though. That was what he said, was they're just going too fast when they
Right.
hit
It
'em.
really does spin fast.
and again, don't
Right.
forget if there's a manatee here, it's gonna
Yeah,
get
oh,
hit.
I'm forgetting, right?
The propeller's facing to the back.
Okay.
So it's just when, Yeah, I mean, almost have to back
You just
into
got to
them.
get people to slow down and be more careful.
So she didn't have any
So how many
suggestions.
areas where that seagrass is
Much
around,
less than there
around the
used to be.
beach? Are there like 6
In the
spots?
Well, in Stero Bay, really, in the front, there weren't any deaths in the front, in the Gulf. There were off of Sanibel, and Captiva, but there weren't any deaths off the beach in Fort Myers Beach. So they're all back in the back
Okay.
bay, and most of them, actually, they're back by Hendry Creek. They're up pretty far, actually. Little Carlos, they had one.
Big Carlos,
Did they have one in Big Carlos?
yeah, one in each.
And I think up in Hurricane Bay, they found one this year, too.
So are there certain areas that we could ask to be policed more frequently?
I mean, no, because.
Is that,
They were all, 2 in Bonita in Estero Bay area, and then 2 Little Carlos. Well, Big is
Carlos is us.
like Lover's Key, you know, or whatever, yeah, and then the decomposed one in Estero Bay, I don't know what, they didn't know what that was undetermined, so there were only like 2 by boat in Estero Bay, and then the 2 passes, Ostego. But
there should be none in Estero Bay by boat. There should be none. I mean, people, but I don't know what we can do.
And she didn't have any suggestions as to what we do. She just said, we need to do something now.
Right.
And she hadn't researched any of this.
No.
And we were under the impression, oh, we have 33 deaths in Estero Bay. Well, we don't.
We
You know,
don't.
There's 2, so.
Which is reassuring, but nevertheless, we recognize the problem.
But for her, if she wants to go to Lee County and say something about 20 deaths in the Caloosahatchee River, and then if she wants to go, like Steve suggested, go to the clubs and get active with them. That's
Well, they have
sort of-
materials and stuff if she wants to go to the marinas and promote it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's sort of one of the places you do it for renters and things like that.
And I guess we tell her we agree with her, but
We do agree, but yeah, it would be enforcement, and then the sheriff or the
Enforcement and signage
Coast Guard or.
and
I don't know who.
education, I guess.
Hey, well, I don't know of any action we can really take, to tell you the truth, unless someone has any great ideas. We can keep thinking about it if you want, but I can report that back to council. We just don't know what we can do.
Yeah, and tell her
Besides
the
you to-
stats and all
we-
that.
yeah,
you
it's a
know.
matter of enforcement of existing laws.
Yeah, signage and education. Those are
Right.
the only 3 things you can do.
Okay, well, let's,
You can put big electric fences so we don't allow them in Estero Bay anymore.
Shock 'em
Well,
with a
it's
towel.
Like the grass carps, yeah.
that's probably one of the big reasons why there's so many deaths, is because not only is it a populated area, but all Florida is we're a big habitat.
It's exactly, yeah.
If you want to get technical, manatee are not native to here.
Right,
They are an invasive species. They
exactly,
used to only be in the Caribbean,
right.
so.
They brought here, they came here on their
I
own.
think they came here because of the water and,
Yeah,
Then they are native.
because of the power
come-
plant.
oh, if they come here on their own,
If they come here on their own,
then
yeah.
that's classified as,
Yeah, I think,
defines native.
yeah, if they're invasive, if they're, brought by some other means.
I think they came on their own.
I think they came on their own.
Okay, then
yeah,
I'm
they've been
corrected
coming
there.
out.
That's the whole thing, there was a thing about the flamingo, there used to be a lot of them. And then they were, I guess, wiped out, hunted, and now
Others.
there's some back, and there's going to debate about whether those are really native now, so. Okay, they're done with manatees?
Yes.
Another thing I'll do this in member items. Okay, so the Murphy Award. Now, we have one in the bank that we voted on last meeting. Does anybody need, I do need your info on that, though, Steve, so
Oh, yeah, I realized I didn't send you anything
Yeah.
on it. Yeah, I'll do that today.
I mean, this story is just out,
the
so I have a
photo,
few
too.
weeks, but still.
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't really need to take any action on the Murphy, unless someone's got one they want to put in the bank? Okay,
Have
Be
any?
on the lookout. That's it, our bank's empty.
yeah, okay. Okay, member items and reports. Who wants to start? Steve?
Really nothing besides what I shared today to report. Mary Rose will give
No, I
you-
don't really have anything. Turtle time is closing up. The big thing with turtles is to get a handle on this lighting situation for next year. The good news is that green turtle nest hatched. So, yeah, success. And we're still hoping we might get another one. because they nest through September, so we're hoping that she might come visit us again. Other than that,
Oh, the same one, yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot. I looked into getting grants, like I said, to remove invasive trees on private property and replace with a native.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that there are a ton of grants. Some of them, the window for application is like 2 weeks. And I don't know anything about grant writing, so I still need to speak with the grant writer we have. apparently.
Allison is
I thought
is
we
it?
had,
Oh, do we have a special one?
I thought so, we had a grant.
I know that like
And staff?
Yeah.
Friends of Bay Oaks, I think, has one.
Ray told me, oh, really? I will email Allison and ask
Yeah,
about.
I think Allison's a crackerjack at writing grants.
Because I will write the grant, I just don't know how to do that. And I don't know how to say, I'm from the town of Fort Myers Beach and yada, yada. Or if I can use the grant writer, that would be great. I'll use the grant writer.
You know, it also might be a good idea, too, 'cause I did mention that you were looking into grants for this when I talked to council. And very enthusiastic, particularly Rexanne. She wants, once all the construction, the stormwater's done, she wants to go on a big planning thing.
Cool.
Planning thing, and she thinks, well, she really likes the tourist tree, I forget the name.
Gumbo limbo.
Gumbo limbo.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, that one, and probably the most sought tolerant would be live oaks. And I know Anita has said on more than one occasion, she wants more people to plant live oaks. And I noticed that there are hardly any, there's some new construction on Estero, and I thought that it had to be 60% native plantings, and it doesn't look like it's 60% to me, so.
Yeah, you know, and what Rexanne said, the one thing I told her is about like, Estero is tough because, you know, pretty much you can't really plant any trees on the beach side because you got the power lines there, unless they're particularly short. And then you also have line of sight issues
Right.
with streets and driveways and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So the places you can put them,
Front
that's,
yard is this big now, they have such, their
Right.
houses are huge.
well, no, also, you know, the area between the sidewalk and the curb, that's pretty tiny. It's that big, you know, so you really, you have to be, if we want to plant something there, we have to plant, where the
Flowers
shrubs
in there or
live.
something.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
sunflowers.
Doing something?
The county's going through
reseed
and putting
them.
this grass everywhere.
Yeah.
We had them come pull some out that they put in Randa's, you know, native patch.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Well, I did find a grant. I looked at, of course, I looked at the DEP, my favorite place, and they have a grant for up to 75,000, just one grant. That sounded awesome.
Oh, that's a nice piece.
Yeah, so, anyway, then there's like grants.com or something, and there's just grants, I mean, there's grants, there are a lot, I could probably get a lot. There's also a lot of state, and there's Conservancy, there's Arbor Day Foundation has grants, so there's no shortage of grants. I just need to be tutored how to write the grant.
You know, I'm spending next week with a bunch of arborists. I'll pick their brain a little bit too. What kind of grants there are for tree planting? Well, it's that in bicycles, so, you know.
Oh,
You know, you might, you know, I would,
Well-
it might be a good idea to reach out to Rexanne because she might also be able to free up some resources in town for things like writing grants.
it's not, yeah, I will probably email Roxanne tonight. It's not just the planting, it's getting people to care about invasives, and nobody cares, and they don't want to pay for it. So that's part of the grant is removing the tree.
Which is
Oh,
great.
Yeah.
I mean, we took out a ficus hedge, it was $1,000. But my
Wow.
husband said it's coming out because ficus gets into your water pipes, so that sucker came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a lot of money. People like their ficus hedge unless they're like my husband and they're really anal about their water pipes, they're just gonna leave it. So, not that ficus is invasive, but there's invasives all over my street, and I just look at them and seethe. So, you can't get people to care. But if you're making it free and you're paying for a replacement tree, maybe somebody will, oh, I'll sign up for that, it's free, you
Sure.
know? So that's my whole motivation is let's get rid of some invasives and,
I think it's a great idea.
I
Yes.
think
I
so
really
too.
do.
And step by step, you know, slowly it will happen.
well, it's also all about water quality.
Yes.
I mean, there's a million regions that do it, and there's really, except for the effort, there's really no reason not to. So,
Yeah. So, and that's it, that's all I have.
Okay. Okay, I've got a few things. I saw an article in the paper that, and I printed it out, but then I left it at home. It's a story, I think that a beach in South Carolina is banning large shovels on the beach. And they limit how big of a hole you can dig. With, yeah, with their usual, well, I think they actually have a sheriff that does it. And I'll forward to everybody the story, but I don't know if that's something we want to consider proposing to council, that we put limitations on how big of holes people dig on the beach.
Well, do we have a problem with them getting stuck or falling, or the babies, or?
Have, at times, yeah, we have.
I've
All
seen-
it takes is a rut, like when the tractor leaves a rut.
Yeah.
If the hatchling happens to fall over it and flip over,
Oh,
you know, it doesn't take much.
There was a hole, this was a couple of seasons ago, near those pilings by my house, and a turtle came out, was in the hole for a while and left, and it was a false crawl. So, I mean, it seemed pretty obvious from looking at it that hole deterred
Yeah.
the turtle from nesting. I haven't heard of, and there's stories on lots of other beaches of turtles falling in them, and sometimes the size of the hole sometimes people dig are just amazing. And there seems to be an assumption that as soon as they leave, the tide comes up,
yeah.
smooths it all out, but it doesn't
It
happen in
doesn't
our
go,
beach.
yeah. But versus more policies and regulations, I think I'd want to pursue having base just carry a shovel and the larger holes, fill them in as if they're left behind. I think somebody had talked to the folks at base, or one of the council people. Was that our meeting wasn't last month?
About that?
Who
Carrying
approached? Somebody approached them, I believe. Oh, I know. I know it is. It's Vinny Tight.
Oh, Vinny asked.
So he was filling in this big hole. He walks the beach, is my neighbor.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy, so he's filling in holes. Some guy comes running out here, we're gonna be taking care of, we're still working on that. And he said, was this here yesterday? He said, yeah. He said, you can have holes. The guys on the cart told me I could keep it.
Keep the
and
hole?
I thought, I don't think so. So he actually called and talked to, I'm not sure, I don't think it was Roger, but he talked to somebody and said, what's going to, because I mentioned it to him, why don't we just have shovels? Why don't they carry shovels? Yeah. And jump out, and it only takes a second, really. They're not very large, most of them.
Right, most of them.
Yeah, some of
The-
them
the
are
ones with the
larger,
biggest
and those are the
concern are
ones
giant.
that, I rip my knees out trying to do with your feet. It's crazy. So I think that's a much more effective approach and just less restrictive for guests and people that are, normally do cover their, fill the holes.
How late do they patrol on the beach?
Well, good question.
Because
I
that
don't
could
know.
take a while if there's a lot of holes.
They're the first thing in the morning. I don't know how late they are in the afternoon, in the evening, so.
I mean, I think
But
that,
most of the hole digging is done by dinner, before dinner time.
Yeah, so they'd have to go out after that.
Well, about that time,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
see them.
I think that's a lot of work, Ashley, because
You do?
I've done
That's a lot
a
of
few holes, and
But they have a full, do you go out there with a full-size shovel?
it's right by
take
my
you a
house.
minute.
I have a 4-foot-long hoe that I made out of wood that I go and I can make fairly short work, but especially if the hole's been out there and the sand's kind of compact, it could be a bit of work in the summer, particularly. I know the town's gone out with their vehicles, and they have a tractor and they've filled in holes. But that has other issues too. But so the options we have staff try to fill in holes. We can have some kind of ordinance that they can use, or maybe we can make up some kind of educational thing, which we worked on before with the Beach Patrol.
It's on the signage right now, and we did the seasonal signs. Many of those were fill your holes, and you had that Murphy last week or last month that said, the kids
Fill in the holes.
went
yeah.
out there and filled them in. But right now, there's also an enforcement issue. We still have dogs that are running off the leash. We still have people
Yeah.
littering. So are they really going to run out and start enforcing holding? They have to catch them after they left, correct? Or no, you're saying prevent them, no digging, period.
The regulation on this, I think it was Hilton Head, is that you're not allowed to have like a full-size shovel.
Only toys are allowed.
Yeah, I've only seen the toys.
Well, we don't know people there with full-size
Oh,
shovels,
yeah, they're-
really.
Well,
Seen those little tiny, little.
Oh, there's some
little
guys who go out
ones,
there.
but-
There was a story, I was talking to
Man, you-
one of the beach patrol guys down by the beach pub, I guess now the beach bar. And these, you go there and they'll excavate an entire,
Put their feet in it, and beer is in the
Oh,
middle.
you guys
Middle-
are up in the crazy part of
beer.
town, that's the problem.
Cooler is in the middle, and they sit there on the edge, and they put their feet.
and he told them, he said, you gotta fill in before you go. And it started raining and they wanted to run off and he made them go in the rain and fill the hole.
No, they throw their empties in there, and when they leave, they put the sand over the empties.
Yuck.
'Cause I have dug out a lot of empties from those things,
oh,
throwing them in the.
Yeah, I heard they did an experiment with a box, those things up in the back of it, which are not really allowed on beaches, but they went through there and they come up with tons of bottles and things that were buried down the sand.
buried.
I mean,
Or,
we have
or,
no-
wait, or it comes in when the storm
We
comes.
have no alcohol on the beach rule too.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I know,
Beer,
yeah.
and the
I mean, they're worried
recycles,
about holes, so.
the recycle's 25 feet in back of them, and they can't put it in there.
Yeah.
I'll go on record to say I'm for
Okay, well, anyway,
beer on the beach.
I just put it out there because I read about it. You guys can
Yeah.
stew on it a little bit, and if you suddenly start noticing tons of holes. Okay, next thing I have. Has anybody looked to see whether the mini reefs are working, whether oysters are
Oh.
colonizing the mini reefs?
I wouldn't say oysters, but there's a lot of stuff on them, yeah. I see them when I do my water testing.
There's-
all up and
I
down.
see they're full of moss.
You can't really see because they're underneath the dock, because I've tried. There's no, how can
shine
you
the
see
light
what's
on 'em.
growing in there?
When we
Brackish
come back and the
water.
Yeah, but you
sun's up,
can't see, it's under the
we
water,
have a
Shannon.
flashlight.
It's under the water.
You can lift them up. I haven't lifted it up, but
Like
I've
if you
looked
go
with
to
a
the Mound
flashlight.
House,
I don't look
and
at
the
the
ones
Mound
that
House
are
ones.
underneath there.
I go on a kayak from the Dolphin Inn, and he has them under his, and then we go all the way down, and they're all up and down Dolphin Inn.
That's
That's
the
where
one
they
that was
put them.
sponsored,
Okay,
those
and
are
you
the
can
town.
look at them, you can see them because you're in the
Yeah.
water. So
Yeah,
you're
and
down
there's
lower.
right, I can
All
see
right.
them, and there's stuff on it. There's not a lot, but there's stuff on them.
Okay.
Like the
There's
barnacle
some on the
looking
bay
stuff.
I've seen, it seems like they have pretty heavy growth on them, actually.
Mostly
But you're in a boat
barnacles and
too,
the,
so you
Out-
can see from
Out in the
there.
bay, maybe
Wavy
that's the
stuff.
difference.
I've seen a
Fish
lot
now.
of algae and stuff on them, but
Yeah.
again, like Mary Rose says, I look at it and all I see is algae. I haven't lifted it up and really tried to see if they're working like they're designed, which is to get filter feeders.
well, he said it takes 9 months to a year, and I don't even know if it's been that long, has it?
It's probably close.
Oh.
Is there a follow-up to that? Didn't the town spent $10,000, right? And were most of those, that was the control canal, was the Dolphin Inn Canal?
Yeah,
Has there been any follow-up? I mean, has there been,
That's going to happen. First, you want to see the oysters there, and then if you can
Right.
see the oysters there, or barnacles or any other filter feeder, then, until that happens, there's not going to be any improvement in water quality.
I think FSW is doing it, but you're right, it wouldn't change, there hasn't been enough growth on it.
Yeah.
So who's monitoring it? Are they coming out and checking it? We don't know.
It would be Ocean Habitats, but who's doing it, actually doing it are the students at FSW.
So maybe they're coming out, we don't
They
know.
did an initial, I think, but I don't think they have started coming back out. That would be a Roger question, because he,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that's something interesting to know, I think. Yeah. Okay, another thing is, when our nesting season wraps up, then maybe we want to go and shuffle some signs. I got your PowerPoint, Steve. I couldn't really tell what was where, what sign it was. I didn't seem to have the,
there's a little label underneath it, right?
yeah, but then I can't read the sign. The graphics, it seems like I wasn't clear enough for me to be able to read it. So I can tell where it was, I can tell what was there.
Maybe I have to,
Yeah. Did you ever look and see if any of them went walking?
no, I never did. No.
Yeah.
Just what my wife told me, so.
So, when I get back, I'm sure turtle seems to be kind of wrapping up, and maybe we can go out and, move some around. Take the turtle ones down.
The turtle one's
Kick those
down for next year.
Yeah. 'Cause
Shorebird nesting ones too.
Yeah, because part of the
Right.
impact is, like with the manatees, if you say, now they're nesting,
Yeah.
and then when they're not nesting, don't have it there.
Right.
All right.
I'll take them down.
Chad, I don't know, well, maybe we'll wait and see what happens, who's going to sign up, but we have at least 3 people who don't really attend very much, and there are attendance rules in our charter. But next month is a new appointment cycle for us. So we have reappointments and new people coming in. And I believe at least one person, maybe all three, are not going to re-up, but I'm not sure. Three new seats open. And another thing, is Louise, our former member. She has been talking to the mayor of Benita about forming a MRF for Benita.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
And she was actually I was scheduled to go to a meeting and talk on her behalf, but that was right during the hurricane. So now she's gone and I'm going to be gone, so we'll pick it up later. But yeah, I thought that was another good thing. Some of the things we're doing are spreading, which I think is a good thing. And then the last thing I have is, the next meeting is a new cycle. So I really want to stress this. I've been the chairman for a long time. If somebody wants to be chairman, please speak up. I mean, I feel greedy being here all the time. So think about it for the next meeting.
A while longer.
Well, I mean, seriously, think about it.
Sure.
Okay. I think that's all mine. So anybody else has anything else? Any straggling ideas? Anything? Okay, there's lizards to kill, so we should probably adjourn.
Check my trap.
Okay, public comment. Set agenda for the next meeting. I think, do you guys want to leave manatees on here to talk about it some more? Or put
No.
manatees on?
Unless you want to talk to them about
If-
town council, I think.
Yeah,
you're
if town council
Yeah, I don't think there's
comes
any,
back with a response to say, no, that's not good enough, tell us what we got to do.
Okay, well, I can,
Just update maybe?
Just-
okay.
Yeah, go
Update
over
or
the
eliminate, yeah.
stats.
Okay, I think we definitely want to have the lizards on here for a while, because there seems like a lot of stuff going on with the lizards.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we may have a speaker on
Yeah, and I'm
lizards
gonna
for
get,
next time.
Oh, we should probably have a vote to say that if the person wants to speak, that we can put them on the agenda.
Oh,
Good idea.
so should I make a
Okay.
motion?
Sure.
I move to invite Rick Bauer to come speak with us about herpetology at the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So yeah, lizards, should we just skip the holes, or do you guys want to just,
Oh, you mean
I want to think about banning shovels. I think we're going to look terrible if we ban shovels. I mean, as much as I might want to,
yeah.
I'd rather hammer people about lights.
All righty, and I think everything else pretty much stays on here, right? We don't want to we're not ready to let go of the glyphosate thing, and the fertilizer, hopefully we'll have more concrete things going on.
Yeah, they're too important. We have to
Yeah.
follow through on them.
I gotta stay on them, yeah.
Okay. And Chad, usually the liaison keeps the agenda. I've had different liaisons. Sometimes I've done it, sometimes the liaison done it, and I've been in different committees, and everybody does it differently. But if you want, I can update this and send it to you, at least for the next meeting. Okay. Okay, that's it. Okay, move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.
Hey, Chad, hard
Get up.
meeting, huh?
Hey, you want to see my dead ones in the cage? Yeah. I know you do.
I want to know how you're killing them. Are you putting them
I
in the
do, I
freezer?
texted you.
Oh, yes, and
That's
we
supposed
are
to be a humane
killing
way to
them
do it?
humanely.
And I also verify they don't come back to life.
Okay, it's
There's
actually
something
all
you
on
can handle
Bill's.
that?
It's all on Bill's. Oh, yeah, look, on Bill's, okay. So this is the one my husband got, duh. Okay, so here's my fat one. Stupid sucker.
Oh, wow.
And then there's my dog. I'm teaching my dog to sniff them out. and eat 'em.
Good idea.
Good Coco. And then I had to smash that one's neck. I had-
Look at the size of that.
And Chad, these are all the ones that I was told to sign.
Is the frozen one the
Now,
male that he got? My husband
Typically,
Iggy Pop.
depends how you want to do it. With attendance,